The wealthy family announced, whichever of us, myself or Jocelyn Foster, bears the first grandson of the Hunter family will inherit the billion-dollar fortune. In my previous life, Jocelyn married the physically strong Hector Hunter, arranged by her parents. I married Oliver, who was wheelchair-bound with a gloomy personality. Within a year of our marriage, Oliver Hunter regained the use of his legs, and I became pregnant with the Hunter family's first grandson. Jocelyn suffered abuse from Hector, lost her mind, and became the laughingstock of high society ladies. On the day I went into labor, she stabbed my belly with a knife, then embraced me as we fell from a high rise. In this new life, Jocelyn snatched the golden bouquet Oliver had sent. I want to marry Oliver. Jocelyn. How could you take Yvonne's bouquet? Chapter 1. Jocelyn had just accepted the extravagant golden bouquet when her father's scolding made her freeze. Father took the golden bouquet from Jocelyn's hands and passed it to me, saying, "Yvonne, your health is better. Though Oliver has a disability, at least his reputation is good." Afterward, father stroked Jocelyn's head affectionately. "Jocelyn, with your fragile health, marrying Hector is the best option." Looking at the golden bouquet and the wedding dress I wore, I pinched my palm hard, finally realizing I had been reborn. In my previous life, following my parents' wishes, I let the frail Jocelyn marry the physically robust Hector. However, the outcome was Jocelyn, seemingly insane, bursting into my delivery room with a knife, screaming, "Why are you the one to bear the Hunter family's first grandson while I'm locked in a mental hospital? It's not fair." Her actions left me bleeding. As she dragged me off the high rise, Jocelyn's voice still echoed in my ears. "Yvonne, you're only fit to be beneath my feet." Just then, Jocelyn snatched back the golden bouquet, fingering the gold-threaded petals with a smirk. "Dad, I don't care. I want to marry Oliver." With just that sentence, I knew Jocelyn had been reborn too. My parents, unable to persuade Jocelyn, looked at me helplessly. I understood exactly what that look meant. All my life, my test scores couldn't exceed Jocelyn's. Whatever Jocelyn wanted, I had to give up for her. Even when it came to marrying into the Hunter family and bearing the first grandson, my parents quickly arranged for Jocelyn to marry the healthy husband. If Jocelyn prefers it, we can switch. After all, the Hunter family only cares about who bears the first grandson. As usual, I calmly accepted the gardenia bouquet sent by Hector. 2 cars waited outside. One was a Rolls-Royce sent by Oliver, with a path of carpets and flowers leading to it. The other was an ordinary sports car driven by Hector's staff, simple in appearance. Before donning our veils and heading to our respective wedding cars, Jocelyn looked at my bouquet and shook her head disdainfully. "Yvonne, don't say I didn't warn you. That Hector may look strong, but I've heard he's inadequate in bed. Oliver has really put in effort. The gold flowers he sent even have a unique fragrance." With that, Jocelyn seemed satisfied, inhaling deeply from the bouquet. Under everyone's envious gaze, she held her head high and strode forward. I stepped back, holding my breath. If that's the case, I wish Jocelyn gets what she desires. Chapter 2. After safely getting into the car, I carefully examined the bouquet in my hands, only relaxing once I confirmed there were no issues. In my previous life, the golden bouquet Oliver sent was indeed extravagant. However, it nearly left me without even a burial place. Oliver from the Hunter family never wanted to marry. He had mixed perfume into that bouquet, a fragrance designed to provoke passionate reactions. He also arranged for me to be delivered to a private box, attempting to ruin my reputation and thereby legitimately break off our engagement. Now that I've been given a second chance at life, we'll see if Jocelyn can successfully avoid this trap. Just as I stepped out of the wedding car, I felt a sudden grip around my waist. A man lifted me up and quickly carried me into the bridal chamber. Laughter and teasing erupted from outside. "Impressive. Let us see what this woman looks like." Through the thin veil, I could only vaguely make out the man in front of me wearing a white suit. A lewd smile spread across his face as he reached out to lift my veil. I moved swiftly, quickly grabbing his hand while lifting my veil faster than he could. "You're not Hector." My voice was firm as my sharp gaze swept across the men and women present. Everyone's expression suddenly changed. The man before me was actually attempting to assault me in front of everyone, completely disregarding the surroundings. I forcefully smashed the bouquet into his face, then pulled out the dagger I had prepared, unhesitatingly slashing across his face. Blood splattered as the man screamed. What an entertaining show. After a round of applause, a man in a white suit with a woman in his arms emerged from behind the door. He sat on the sofa across from me, slightly raising his eyebrow with a playful smile at the corner of his lips. Quite ruthless, aren't you? I calmly raised my eyes to meet his gaze. You're not bad yourself. Looking at how he deliberately loosened his shirt to expose his abs, paired with his rebellious demeanor. This man was Hector, my husband in this life. In my previous life, I had seen him a few times at Hunter family gatherings. He always presented himself as a playboy, indulging in women outside. But I never expected this wedding to be so absurd. Hector waved his hand, and everyone in the room immediately left. Hector, you're not really going to marry this woman, are you? I looked up at the sound, my gaze falling on the petite woman nestled in his arms. Hector didn't respond but instead pinched her waist, making her cry out coquettishly, "Stop it." The two continued their intimate interaction, completely disregarding their surroundings. I let out a contemptuous laugh, looking directly at Hector as I revealed my true intentions. Hector, how about we make a deal? You? What could you offer? Hector lazily raised his eyes, seemingly uninterested in what I had to say. I wasn't bothered by this. In the eyes of aristocrats like them, people of lower status like us were merely tools for reproduction. Whether I married Oliver or Hector, I didn't want to live under someone else's control anymore. Ignoring his contempt, I extended my hand, pointing from his head downward until I reached the middle of his pants. I'm offering a deal involving this part of you. Those around wanted to laugh but dared not make a sound. Hector finally dropped his arrogant, unruly demeanor. His face darkened as he ordered everyone out. As soon as the door closed, he extinguished the cigarette in his hand. Moving close to me, he roughly grabbed my chin. Yvonne, you should assess your own abilities and status before speaking. Chapter 3. I had to tilt my head back, almost touching his nose. I can cure your erectile dysfunction. Hearing this, Hector's eyes instantly darkened, and his hand violently gripped my throat. I could see the thought in his eyes. Rather than risk uncertain, unrealistic possibilities, better to silence you forever with this secret. As the pressure on my neck suddenly increased, I clutched at his hand, struggling to squeeze out a few broken words. 3 days, just 3 days, and you'll see results, cough. If it doesn't work, you can deal with me then. Hector finally released his grip. In that brief minute, I thought I was going to die right there. I dared to speak up because I was absolutely confident. In my previous life, Oliver was even more difficult to handle than Hector. The only reason I stayed with him for so long was because I had value to him. I majored in medicine. This background served me well in my previous life. According to my parents' wishes, I agreed to be mindful of Jocelyn's feelings and couldn't outshine her in any aspect. No one knew how skilled I really was. People only knew that I spent an entire year treating Oliver's leg, which eventually helped him recover. However, no one knew that Oliver also suffered from erectile dysfunction. I treated him for over a month before his wife successfully conceived a child. Thinking about this, I took several deep breaths, then grabbed Hector's wrist to check his pulse. Fortunately, his condition was similar to Oliver's, not difficult to treat. How did you know I had this condition? Confusion flashed in Hector's eyes as he grabbed my hand. I smiled and made up a lie. Before marrying you, I had to learn something about my future husband, didn't I? In truth, Hector's erectile dysfunction was common knowledge in my previous life. Back then, Jocelyn tried everything but could never arouse Hector's interest. She drugged him and called a private doctor to examine him. The results revealed Hector's erectile dysfunction. When Hector woke up, he flew into a rage. He suppressed all information about it and sent Jocelyn to a mental institution. Hearing my words, Hector's pupils slightly contracted as he thought to himself. After knowing all this, you still didn't choose my older brother. Hector was more reasonable than I expected. I prescribed some medicine. If the medicine worked, the price was that he would accompany me to visit my parents 3 days later. On the day of the traditional post-wedding visit, I waited for Hector outside, but he never showed up. After pondering for a moment, I got into the car alone and headed home. As soon as I walked in, Jocelyn pointed at the room full of gifts and said sweetly, "Dad, Oliver and I picked this coffee for you, and this imperial green crystal is for Mom." My parents were delighted by Jocelyn's attention, their lips constantly upturned as they repeatedly said, "Good, good, good." Seeing me arrive empty-handed, Jocelyn said sharply, "Yvonne, your husband let you come alone?" I smiled gently and replied, "Your husband didn't accompany you either." Jocelyn pouted and showed off the large diamond ring on her finger. "You know nothing about this, silly. Oliver is the CEO of Hunter Group, of course he's busy." "Your husband? He just has shares but no real power." Through Jocelyn's raised hand, I caught a glimpse of purple bruises peeking out from her sleeve. Oliver was the type who maintained perfect appearances. In my previous life, he was physically disabled with a gloomy, unpredictable personality. Every night, he would beat me violently with various objects. I endured his treatment for a long time until his leg condition improved and he no longer tormented me. Seeing how happy Jocelyn appeared now, I didn't want to burst her bubble. I walked past her toward the bathroom. Jocelyn, seeing that I continued to ignore her, hurriedly followed me. "Yvonne, your husband didn't prepare any gifts for the visit, did he?" Seeing that I maintained my indifferent attitude, her expression darkened. She threw the red wine in her hand at me. But she lost her balance in her high heels and fell heavily to the ground. Jocelyn cried out in pain, which brought my parents running. She immediately played the victim, trying as always to shift blame to me when she did something wrong. "Dad, Yvonne tried to hurt me. She said she wanted me to damage my body so I could never bear the Hunter family's first grandson." "Mom, she's trying to harm me." "Wha?" I was about to defend myself. After hearing just a few sentences from Jocelyn, my father glared at me angrily and raised his hand to slap me. "Not only did you come without your husband, but you didn't even bring gifts. And now you're jealous of Jocelyn. What kind of thoughts are you harboring?" In the next moment, someone stepped in front of me. Chapter 4. Hector gripped her father's hand tightly, while shock filled Jocelyn's eyes. "How is this possible? In the previous life, you..." I understood what she wanted to express, that in her past life, Hector had neither prepared gifts for her traditional post-wedding visit to her parents, nor accompanied her here. But in this life, everything had changed. Hector expressionlessly pulled his hand away from her father, then led me to the hall where we sat down. Jocelyn followed closely behind us. "Yvonne, what love potion did you give him to make him willing to come?" I took a small sip of coffee, glancing at her with a hint of mockery. "What's so strange about my husband accompanying me on my post-wedding family visit?" Hector shot Jocelyn a displeased sidelong glance, casually picking up the coffee box from the table, his tone filled with disdain. "My dear brother only sent these things, how stingy of him." After he spoke, I watched as the assistant who had been following Hector took out 2 boxes and placed them on the table. One contained car keys, the other a premium membership black card for an exclusive beauty club. The assistant introduced each gift. These presents were specially prepared in advance by Mr. Hector. He hopes Mr. and Mrs. Zhu will be pleased. "Pleased? We're absolutely delighted." Watching my parents' expressions change repeatedly as they held the gifts, their eyes gleaming with excitement when they looked at each other, I couldn't help but give a bitter, self-mocking smile. This was the Foster family where affection meant less than power and money. This marriage arrangement was quite interesting. It all started when my father happened to save Nathan's life, after which he shamelessly begged for this marriage. Before we got into our cars to return home, Jocelyn bit her lip and pulled me aside, her voice dripping with jealousy and disappointment. "Yvonne, so what if your post-wedding visit was more impressive than mine? Before long, Hector will become a useless waste. The first male heir of the prestigious family will only come from me." Living a second life, Jocelyn was still immersed in her self-perceived competition. In her mind, whether in the previous life or this one, what we were competing for was who would first give birth to the wealthy family's first grandson. But we were merely gifts our parents had given away, nothing more than breeding tools for the wealthy family. "Jocelyn, do you really think having the first grandson will leave you without worries? In this life, you have a third option." Seeing her shocked expression, I said nothing more. As soon as I returned to the villa, I pulled Hector into the bedroom. "Take off your clothes." Hector remained silent, his expression instantly freezing. I took out the medical kit I carried with me and said as usual, "I'm a doctor, I need to treat your illness. What are you embarrassed about? After I cure you, I won't question whatever you do with other women. Likewise, I hope you won't interfere in my affairs." I suspected Hector's willingness to accompany me today meant the medication was starting to work. Now it was time for the next phase of treatment. While I was lost in thought, Hector wrapped his arm around my waist and pressed me down beside him. His shirt buttons were loosely undone, revealing glimpses of his collarbone underneath. "Is it that simple? I thought you planned to compete with Jocelyn for the heir position." Seeing my nervous reaction, he moved closer. "What are you shy about, Dr. Foster?" My heart trembled violently as I pushed him away forcefully. In this intimate atmosphere, Hector was clearly testing me. Hector was different from Oliver. If Oliver was like a crystal orchid growing in a dark, damp corner, then Hector was like an oleander exquisitely beautiful on the outside, but deadly poisonous within. Every bit of his apparent playfulness and nonchalance concealed deadly intent. "If Hector wants children, I can oblige." As I spoke, I put on a fawning expression. I moved closer, reaching for his vow. Seeing my uninteresting response, Hector's smile disappeared, and he seriously flicked my hand away. "You know what will happen if you can't cure me." I smiled slightly, with a look of triumph in my eyes. "Naturally. But if I do cure you, I only want one thing." Hector tilted his head slightly, signaling me to continue. "There's a family banquet in a month. I want you to put on a show with me. Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses." Chapter 5. Nathan hosts a family dinner every year. This year, Hunter family's Oliver and Hector got married at the same time, and naturally needed to bring their new wives to meet the family elders. There was still no news from William and Elizabeth. I never met them in my previous life either, only visiting the renowned Nathan for Christmas. "When you meet grandfather shortly, just perform the traditional kowtow as I told you." I nodded and walked into the front hall on Hector's arm. In my previous life, I attended this family dinner while pregnant and received special care from the family members. At the dinner, grandfather gave me 10 million to ensure a healthy pregnancy without worries. Jocelyn, who couldn't conceive and had a poor relationship with her husband, was looked down upon by the servants. In her nervous state, she spilled coffee on Nathan and was immediately put in an embarrassing situation, forced to kneel in the hall. When I tried to plead for mercy on her behalf, I was scolded instead. That night, Oliver stabbed me with needles, leaving numerous tiny puncture wounds all over my body. In this life, Jocelyn arrived before me. As soon as we entered, I saw Nathan sitting in the center of the living room. Oliver sat drinking coffee in the chair to his left, while Jocelyn was kneeling on the floor paying her respects. When I approached, Jocelyn had just smugly accepted a red envelope, a traditional monetary gift, and was taking her seat beside Oliver. "Grandfather, your coffee." Just like in my previous life, I knelt before Nathan, lifting the coffee high above my head. Unlike before, the liquid was scalding hot. At that moment, Jocelyn announced, "Grandfather, I have wonderful news to share with you. I'm pregnant." After hearing this, I glanced with surprise at Jocelyn's stomach. In my previous life, I had nursed and cared for Oliver for a long time before successfully conceiving. Had Jocelyn found a renowned doctor to cure Oliver's condition early this time? The burning sensation on my fingers interrupted my thoughts. Meanwhile, Jocelyn deliberately engaged everyone in celebration, leaving me holding the hot coffee while they exchanged congratulations. "Grandfather, Yvonne is still in the middle of paying her respects to you," Hector reminded softly. The room grew quieter, and Nathan let out a cold snort. "Third son's wife, any news from you two yet?" he asked. With downcast eyes, I replied in a flat tone, "Not yet." Only then did Nathan take the coffee from my hands. Without taking a sip, he set it aside and stood up, leading everyone to the adjacent room. I rose, rubbing my sore arms, and watched Jocelyn walking at the front, proudly caressing her belly with a smug expression. In this lifetime, I only hoped Jocelyn wouldn't come to regret her actions. While I was lost in thought, Hector gently opened my hand, revealing angry red burns across my palm. "You'd better stay alert. Family dinners aren't easy to navigate. Neither your Jocelyn nor my older brother are good people." I was surprised, realizing that Hector's life in the Hunter family hadn't been smooth. I'd heard that morning that Hector and Oliver had different mothers, with Hector being born as an illegitimate son outside the family. The brothers had always been at odds, even holding separate wedding ceremonies. When we sat down for dinner, Nathan slapped the table in delight. He immediately gifted Jocelyn a luxury mansion and $10 million to ensure a healthy pregnancy without worries. It was more than a gift, it was a promise that if she bore a son, he would inherit Nathan's estate worth hundreds of millions. Chapter 6. Jocelyn happily raised her glass in celebration, accidentally spilling juice on herself during dinner. "Yvonne, could you accompany me to change my clothes? I'm not comfortable with everyone here." My eyelids suddenly twitched. Jocelyn hadn't been mischievous today, she'd been waiting for this moment. Nathan said, "Since Jocelyn is carrying the most precious first grandson of the Hunter family, the third son's wife should accompany her." I agreed and escorted Jocelyn to the changing room. Discreetly checking her pulse, I confirmed she was indeed pregnant. As I helped Jocelyn with the zipper on her back, she looked at me through the mirror. "Yvonne, you must be dying of jealousy. Soon, everything you had in your previous life, your husband's affection and the $1 billion inheritance will all be mine." I merely smirked and said, "After getting all of this, are you happy?" In my previous life, after Jocelyn caused my tragic death, I didn't immediately reincarnate. Instead, I discovered a shocking secret. Floating in the air, I watched someone cut open my belly and deliver the fetus straight to Nathan's study. It must be alive for extraction to work. Only after overhearing the secret conversation between Nathan and the doctor did I realize they weren't concerned about the first grandson inheriting the family fortune, they wanted to extend their own fading lives. William and Elizabeth had already died tragically because of Nathan's experiments. Leo died prematurely, while Oliver and Hector suffered from sexual dysfunction. Perhaps this was the family's karmic retribution. The dress was now properly worn again. Jocelyn before me was nearly hysterical. What does it matter if I'm happy or not? As long as everyone envies me, that's enough. Tears glistened in Jocelyn's eyes, and I felt a twinge of pity. I decided to tell her everything. "Jocelyn, stop this. Even if you give birth to the child, it will only become a sacrifice. You're no match for me. Don't try to fool me with your nonsense." Ah. While speaking, Jocelyn suddenly yanked the accessory from my hair and forcefully stabbed her own hand with it. I watched coldly as Jocelyn threw herself to the ground, crying and screaming. The white garment I had just helped her change into was now soaked with blood. Seeing everyone appear at the doorway, Jocelyn clutched her stomach, her expression completely distorted. "Yvonne, why are you trying to harm me?" My fist clenched, then relaxed. I slowly closed my eyes and let out a long sigh. How ridiculous, I had bet wrong again. Nathan was furious and punished me by confining me to the Hunter family's basement. Until the investigation was complete, I wasn't to be released. Hector stepped forward, took my hand, and hid me behind him. Grandfather, I firmly believe Yvonne isn't that kind of person. We can't just take this woman's word for it. Jocelyn, lying on the sofa, was almost laughing from anger. How could it not be possible? Yvonne has always been jealous of my good life, and now she especially doesn't want me carrying the Hunter family's first grandson. Hector, when did you become so responsible? I gently squeezed Hector's palm, giving him a reassuring look, then stepped forward voluntarily. I didn't do this. I'm willing to wait until you investigate thoroughly. Everything happening now was part of my plan. Only by staying in the Hunter family mansion would I have the chance to expose Nathan's secret. Only by bringing down the Hunter family could I escape the power struggles between wealthy families. In this lifetime I would control my own destiny. Chapter 7. The basement contained only a bed and a toilet, with extremely minimalist furnishings. Someone delivered meals punctually every day. What others might consider imprisonment, I saw as a rare opportunity, though the room was equipped with surveillance cameras. Just as I was worrying about how to escape, Oliver appeared. He stood in a blind spot of the cameras, neither too close nor too far from my small cell. Yvonne, do you want revenge against Jocelyn? Hearing this, I almost thought Oliver had also experienced rebirth. However, his next words dispelled that suspicion. I know you've been secretly competing with Jocelyn for that money, and she's falsely accused you several times without reason. In truth, throughout my life, I'd never had any connection with Oliver. His sudden approach made me deeply suspicious. You and Jocelyn are husband and wife. Aren't you afraid she'll discover what you're doing? Jocelyn, huh? Oliver calmly adjusted the buttons on his sleeve, his voice ice cold. That fool Jocelyn goes out fooling around with others every day. Don't think I don't know how she got pregnant. So this was about revenge against Jocelyn. Oliver indeed valued loyalty above all else. In my previous life, when his secretary betrayed him, he had the man silenced that very night. But I wasn't a fool either. I began to reason, if you kept quiet, no one would know whose child Jocelyn is carrying, and you could still get the inheritance. When Oliver heard this, his gaze instantly turned glacial. I don't lack money, but anyone who betrays me deserves to die. It seemed that in this life, apart from Jocelyn, no one wanted to fight for the rumored $1 billion family fortune. Oliver tossed me a USB drive and left after saying one sentence. This contains her information. Use it or not, it's up to you. I clutched the drive tightly, my heart a tangle of emotions. Shortly after Oliver left, Jocelyn arrived. Yvonne, I brought someone you surely know. Jocelyn sauntered in, followed by a petite girl with delicate features. I hid the USB drive and put on a bewildered expression, shaking my head while continuing to eat. Who is she? Jocelyn's initially excited expression froze, and she promptly knocked my plate to the floor. She's Cecilia Stewart, Hector's mistress. How could you possibly not know her? Cecilia? I remembered now. In my previous life, Jocelyn and Hector's mistress Cecilia had caused quite a stir. They were either fighting in shopping malls or causing scenes on the streets. Videos of them attacking each other were captured and uploaded to Twitter. I recalled only briefly glancing at them. Thinking back carefully, when I married Hector in this life, the woman in his arms must have been Cecilia. But I hadn't seen her for a long time. If you're looking for Hector, you should go find him elsewhere. He won't come here. I meant this sincerely. Cecilia didn't seem very confident either. She tugged at the edge of Jocelyn's skirt. Mrs. Foster, perhaps we should leave. Jocelyn noticed her timidity and pulled out a small knife from her expensive handbag, pressing it into Cecilia's hand. Cecilia, don't you want to win back Hector's heart? Then slash her face. This doesn't seem right. I watched the two of them struggle for quite some time before I couldn't bear it any longer. I extended my hand, casually pointing toward the camera in the corner. Only then did Jocelyn let out a shriek, and after a moment, she lifted a stool and smashed it against the camera. I smiled, having achieved my goal. I took out a handkerchief I'd prepared in advance, covered my nose and mouth, and waved it once in front of the two women. I dragged them onto the bed. Under the moonlight, guided by memories from my previous life, I entered Nathan's study. Chapter 8. From the outside, the study appeared completely normal. In my previous life, after I died, I witnessed Nathan turning the vase to reveal a hidden room behind the bookcase. All the secrets were contained within. Drawing on my memories from my past life, I was about to open the bookcase when a black figure suddenly appeared and covered my mouth. "Don't scream, it's me, Hector." I nodded, terrified, and turned to see Hector dressed in black clothes, covered even more thoroughly than I was. "No time for talk. Let's go in." I watched in shock as Hector reached out and twisted the vase. One end of the cabinet door slowly opened, revealing a cold, dim light from within. Hector entered first, and I followed closely behind him. The interior decoration was no different from modern style, except for large shelves on both sides. The shelves held many small transparent jars, each containing oddly shaped items I couldn't name. I picked up a book at random and saw handwritten text with a series of names. "How many people have these things harmed?" Still in shock, Oliver took the list from my hand. With each page he turned, his expression grew darker. Scarlett, Chloe, Ava. Some of these were friends I knew as a child. At the end of these papers was a letter. "Dad, please stop. Immortality is impossible to achieve. These are all lies." Oliver pinched the paper between his fingers and his lips moved slightly as he said, "This handwriting belongs to my father." I checked my watch and realized we had limited time and couldn't delay too long. Hector took out his phone and began taking photos around the room, then selected several important documents and tucked them into his jacket. He patted Oliver's shoulder, gesturing for us to leave. Although the Hunter family employed bodyguards, they were still just hired help. Everyone has moments of drowsiness. By the time Oliver and I drove to the outskirts, daylight had fully broken. My mother was killed by Nathan's own hands. Oliver slammed his fist against the steering wheel, his voice filled with undisguised anger. I was startled by his words, then listened as Hector began to tell a story. A tale of wealthy family conflicts from the previous life that I knew nothing about. My mother wasn't the other woman. She only got together with my father after his first wife passed away. Nathan deceived her, telling her that if she could bear another son, he would allow her to marry into the Hunter family. But on the night she was giving birth, Nathan sent people into the delivery room, and afterward, both my mother and the baby in her womb disappeared. My father went to confront him, but died in an accident that same night. Over the years, I've uncovered some clues. Nathan discovered that ordinary children's organs were useless, so he set his sights on me and Oliver, planning to use the child you would bear too. I understood roughly what happened after that. To satisfy his selfish desires, Nathan had likely harmed many people in secret over the years. Oliver's eyes were bloodshot, with a few sparks of light flickering in their depths. A bitter smile hung on his face, never quite reaching his eyes. "I had planned to rescue you from the Black Room, but was surprised to see you walking out on your own. Yvonne, it seems our goals align." Chapter 9. This matter had an extremely wide scope, involving cases spanning several decades. Before Nathan discovered the files were stolen, Oliver and I had already handed all documents to the police department and reported Nathan. Early in the morning, Hector contacted the media and called a press conference. Standing before the flashing cameras, he announced loudly, "I, Hector, from this moment forward, am withdrawing from the Hunter family. And I'm officially reporting Nathan for his crimes." Immediately after, with my assistance, the evidence we had preserved was displayed on the large screen. Once exposed, the story instantly became headline news across all major media outlets. The bigger the scandal, the better. Only under public scrutiny would Nathan find it impossible to escape his crimes. Things were progressing smoothly, but I hadn't anticipated Jocelyn would insert herself into the situation for attention. She actually posted a video online. "I'm officially reporting my sister Yvonne. We both married into the Hunter family. To prevent me from giving birth to the Hunter family's first grandson, she drugged and imprisoned me in the basement. She frequently steals my belongings and refuses to let me outshine her in any way. In the video, Jocelyn held her ID card, her eyes rimmed with red, and began fabricating false claims using several darkened surveillance screenshots. On my social media accounts, malicious comments were steadily increasing. "Yvonne, you vicious woman, why don't you just die? I heard that on her wedding day, she was still being intimate and affectionate with another man. Disgusting. Dad even called to interrogate me. I've taught you since childhood to be considerate of Jocelyn, yet you still dare to bully her?" At that moment during the call, I could no longer contain myself and shouted. "What? Am I not your daughter too? Why must I always yield to her in everything?" After hanging up, I clutched the USB drive tightly, spent the night editing its contents and adding pixelation, then posted everything online in succession. I don't like initiating conflicts, but that doesn't mean I'm a pushover who allows others to slander me without consequences. When news spread online about Jocelyn faking pregnancy to gain favor, I secretly left without Hector knowing. Just before leaving, Hector sent me a message. "Don't worry about the negative comments online. I've arranged for someone to handle it. What would you like for dinner?" I turned off my phone and replied with, "Sweet and sour ribs, my favorite comfort food." Opening the door, I saw Jocelyn hiding in Mom's arms, crying. Dad saw me approach and sternly called out, "Yvonne, do you admit your mistake?" I ignored them both and walked straight to my room to pack my belongings. On the wall hung certificates and awards I'd earned from childhood through adulthood. These were my most precious memories from throughout my journey in life, and now I needed to take them all with me. As I walked out carrying a large box, Father grabbed a delicate porcelain cup and smashed it near my feet. "Don't think you can disobey your parents just because you married into the Hunter family. Jocelyn is far more precious than you. She's carrying the Hunter family's first grandson." Mom chimed in. "What you and your husband did was too much. If the Hunter family collapses, how will your sister inherit millions?" They obviously hadn't woken up to reality yet. I gently set down the box and took out an adoption list, placing it face down on the tea table. The three people standing before me showed rapidly changing expressions. "All these years I've watched you raise and reward Jocelyn. I had to let her take first place in every aspect. I had to wear worse clothes than her because she was the more important daughter in our parents' hearts. But now, I understand. Besides, Nathan brought this on himself. The money he earned was illegitimate to begin with. Hector and I will pursue this case to the very end." After saying this, I picked up my box and left the Foster home without looking back. As the door opened, Hector was waiting outside. Chapter 10. He looked like someone who had been caught eavesdropping. I concealed the panic in my eyes, turned away, and wiped my tears. Hector took my hand, as if he hadn't seen anything. "I've already bought the sweet and sour ribs, just waiting for you to come home so we can eat together." The Hunter family mansion was eventually sealed off, and Nathan was sentenced to death. Overnight, Oliver announced that Hunter Group had gone bankrupt. When I heard this news, I was lying in bed, eating grapes that Hector had washed for me. Hector began to share the gossip. My brother sold all his shares privately the moment he got the news. The Hunter Family Corporation was actually just an empty shell with nothing but appearances. As for your Jocelyn, she'll hardly escape his control. Hector was right. At first, Jocelyn could still post about her daily life on Twitter. Later, her account gradually stopped updating. When I heard news of her again, it was a year later, which surprised everyone. On a certain day after Oliver had sent Jocelyn to a mental hospital, he died in a car accident. Reportedly, the car carrying him had brake failure and drove straight off a bridge. The driver broke the window and escaped, while Oliver sank to the bottom of the lake with the water. No one investigated the cause of Oliver's death deeply, and the matter was left unresolved. It was at this time that I was found to be 3 months pregnant. As Hector and I were leaving the mall, Jocelyn suddenly appeared before us, her hair disheveled and her face dirty. She gripped Hector's wrist firmly, and he couldn't break free no matter how hard he tried. "Hector, don't you remember me? In our past life, you and I were lovers. I won't be jealous of others anymore. Let's go back and live well together, okay? Hector forcefully shook off her hand and took out his phone to call the police. Stay away from me. You're truly insane. Seeing that Hector ignored her, Jocelyn turned her gaze toward me. Why did you steal my husband? Why is your life better than mine in every lifetime? Jocelyn rushed toward me frantically, and only then did I notice she was holding a sharp knife. Scenes from past and present lives flashed clearly before my eyes. I instinctively covered my belly and turned to run away. Jocelyn grabbed my shoulder tightly, her face twisted into a ferocious expression as she cackled maniacally. I want you to die with me, so we can start over. Jocelyn. You're crazy. Just as the knife was about to stab my belly, Hector reached out and firmly gripped the blade. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead as he gritted his teeth and said, Go quickly, the police will be here soon. I nodded, understanding that I couldn't be a burden here, and backed away while crying in fear. Soon after, the police arrived and restrained the crazed Jocelyn. However, she wielded the knife, slashing wildly around her, then broke free from control and leaped over the railing. No, I can't accept this. I'll come back again. Screams continued throughout the mall, and I fainted. Some time later, when I regained consciousness and saw the familiar face of Hector, I finally confirmed that I hadn't gone back to the past again. No matter what, I never wanted to relive it all again.